Devoted to small and independent business, the NFIB, proud to support the 2014 general election debates on Wyoming PBS.
General election debates on Wyoming PBS are supported in part by a grant from the BNSF Railway Foundation, dedicated to improving the general welfare and quality of life in communities throughout the BNSF Railway service area.
Wyoming PBS, in partnership with Wyoming Public Media and the Wyoming Business Report, are proud to bring you Decision 2014, Wyoming's general election debates.
Good evening and welcome to Election 2014, Wyoming's Choices. Wyoming PBS is proud to continue its 24-year heritage of Wyoming candidate debates, and this is the first night in our series of debates among candidates in contested races in Wyoming's November elections. Tonight, in our second live debate, we host the 4 candidates for the United States Senate. We're in the Little Theater on the campus of Central Wyoming College, and I'm Craig BLUMENSHINE from Wyoming PBS. With me in the studio are Wyoming journalists Ben STORROW and LEIGH PATERSON. Ben is a staff writer focusing on energy issues from the Casper Star-Tribune, and LEIGH is Wyoming's inside energy reporter and produces content for both Wyoming PBS and Wyoming Public Radio as part of a 3-state public media partnership. Ben and LEIGH, welcome.
Thank you.
Before we begin, we'd like to offer our special thanks to our debate partners, Wyoming Public Media, the Wyoming Business Report, and K2 Television. Wyoming voters who have not cast absentee ballots will head to the polls November 4th. And it's our goal tonight, again, to provide an opportunity for viewers to connect with the candidates and hear from them as they debate side by side, discussing issues that are important to Wyoming. I want to now introduce our 4 candidates, and then we'll briefly review the rules and format of tonight's debate. Democratic candidate Charlie Hardy has more than 50 years' experience as an educator, priest, missionary, husband, and father. He was born and raised in Cheyenne, Wyoming, the son of immigrants with 4 sisters and a brother in the same red brick house where he lives today. After high school in Cheyenne, he earned 4 university degrees, including a Master's of Arts in Educational Administration from the University of Wyoming. Mr. Hardy was ordained a Catholic priest in 1965 and served in the Diocese of Wyoming until 1994. Welcome, Mr. Hardy. Independent candidate Curt Gottshall is originally from a small town in Pennsylvania. He attended Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University, receiving a Bachelor's of Science degree in Aeronautical Science. He currently lives in Laramie and has 1 son, Cole, born earlier this year. Mr. Gottshall is an international airline captain and has captained the Boeing 747, 737, and the McDonnell Douglas DC-10. Mr. Gottshall, welcome.
Thank you.
Republican Senator Mike Enzi and his wife Diana have lived in Gillette for more than 40 years. Together they raised their 3 children, Amy, Emily, and Brad, while operating 3 small businesses. Mr. Enzi served for 8 years as mayor of Gillette during a major boom that doubled the size of the population and grew Wyoming's energy industry exponentially. He has also worked as an accountant and safety training manager in oil well servicing. Senator Enzi was elected to the state legislature, where he served as a state representative and state senator. Senator Enzi, welcome. Libertarian candidate Joseph Porambo was born in Worcester, Massachusetts, and was graduated from high school in Chesapeake, Virginia. Mr. Porambo moved to Wyoming in 2001 after being offered a job by a restaurant manager. Today, Mr. Porambo is a professional cook in an assisted living center in Casper. This is the first time Mr. Porambo has ran for public office. Mr. Porambo, welcome tonight.
Thank you.
LEIGH, Ben, and I will alternate asking questions to the candidates, and each candidate will take turns in answering each question first. Each candidate will have 60 seconds to answer, and the first to answer will be allowed a 20-second rebuttal. Candidates, we encourage you to watch the green, amber, and red signals. When the light glows red, you may complete your sentence, but that will signal that your time is up. In the middle of the debate, we'll have a lightning round where we'll throw at you short 1 or 2 phrase topics. Each candidate will have 20 seconds each to respond, and there will be no rebuttals during the lightning round. With that, we are ready to proceed. We've got a lot to cover, so we're ready to go. My first question is for you, Mr. Hardy. Experience is an issue in this debate. Please describe the qualifications that you feel have prepared you to best serve Wyoming in the United States Senate. What makes you stand out to Wyoming voters compared to the candidates you are debating with tonight?
First of all, I want to thank Wyoming PBS for the chance to address the people of Wyoming. Yesterday, I spent the whole day at the Wind River Reservation. Today is Columbus Day, but we really should be commemorating the Native Americans, people who have suffered for a long time and continue to suffer today. And along with that, there are other people suffering in Wyoming, and the reason why I'm running. There are children going to bed hungry every night. There are women who are not being treated equally. There are men who are working hard and are not making enough to support their family. There's people who are sick and are not able to afford medicine. There's senior citizens and veterans who are not getting the attention they should. All my life, I have tried to listen to people and accompany them in their struggles. And honestly, Senator Enzi, I've not heard you talking about these people and the problems they have today. And I think there's too much concern with what corporations are saying and what people raising money, $1,000 banquets and things along this line for a meal that have become too much a concern.
Mr. Hardy, thank you. Mr. Gottshall.
Yes, I'm running for office out of a sense of responsibility to my family, friends, and countrymen. I live in Laramie, like you said, with my wife Katrina and our young son Cole. And his recent arrival has made me think more towards his future and what it might look like. And it's mind-blowing. If we stay on the course that we're currently on, with the current path that the politicians we have in office put us forward, I don't only worry about the national debt that he'll inherit, but I worry about his life, his liberty and pursuit of happiness. What separates me from the other politicians is, to simply put it, I'm not one. I'm an airline captain, like you said, and a consultant by profession. I've traveled to all 50 states and 28 countries around the world. I've been able to participate, work on, and negotiate contracts on a global stage. And it's given me the opportunity to observe different types of governments and cultures around the world, which gives me a unique perspective and a vast bank of knowledge to pull from when it comes to leading us in Washington. And I hope that we can ensure that something worthwhile is left for future generations. I will not be playing the blame the other party game that we currently have going on in Washington. I'll simply be representing the people of Wyoming and getting the job done.
Mr. Gottshall, thank you very much. Senator Enzi.
Thank you. I'm positioned to do some critical things at a critical time for our nation, and I've got the background to be able to do it. When my wife and I got married, we moved to Gillette and we started a shoe business, a retail shoe business. Later, I ran for mayor, and I got to do that for 8 years when Gillette was going through a huge boom and doubled in size, which is a lot of sewer and water and streets and sidewalks and police protection and fire protection and garbage and all of the other things that municipalities do. Then I served in the state legislature. We handled 12 bills a day, which is all different background that's come in real handy in Washington. I did that for 10 years. Now I've been in the United States Senate. I passed over 100 bills, and more importantly, I've worked on 12,000 things for people, individuals in Wyoming that were having problems with their federal government. That shouldn't happen. But we need to have somebody strong in Washington that knows how to handle those problems and that has experience in it.
Senator Enzi, thank you. Mr. Porambo.
I am not a professional politician. This is the first time I have ever ran for office. My opponents all have some form of experience. My experience comes from going to work every day, earning a paycheck to keep a roof over my head and food in my stomach, and who's going to be my wife tomorrow night, Tammy. I have done that on a regular basis. In restaurant management, I have learned how to not only instruct and guide people, but to work with people of differing views and bring them together for one purpose, to bring us to a mutual agreement. And I think that's what's needed in Washington right now. Rather than the blame game, working with each other to come to a mutual agreement that will benefit the United States of America.
Mr. Porambo, thank you, and congratulations to you.
Thank you.
Lee Patterson from Inside Energy, a question for Mr. Gottshall.
Mr. Gottshall, so far, 12 states plus the District of Columbia have chosen to adopt the next generation science standards. As you know, Wyoming is not one of them. Whether through NGSS or through local decisions, do you believe climate change has a place in Wyoming science classrooms?
Absolutely. The question we have right now on the issue is we don't have a definitive source of information of what the actual impact is. Some studies say that it's 0.7 degrees per year, and some argue that it's much higher or much lower. And the funding for most of these projects are coming from the energy sector themselves, which makes them biased in itself. Contrary to the global warming, if you will, I think that it's important that we have a well-rounded wheelhouse when it comes to energy sources throughout the state and the nation. We should try to avoid being single-source reliant at all costs. That being said, there are also other issues that play into a factor. Currently, if we produce a kilowatt of power from a coal plant, the government subsidizes it 3 cents. If we produce a kilowatt of power out of a windmill, they subsidize it $1.33. And is that what we really need to do? I guess my light's coming on here.
Thank you very much. Senator Enzi.
Well, we have to worry about the education of our kids. The next generation science standards are supposed to be looking into the future to figure out what our kids need to know in the future. I toured NCAR last week. That's the facility that the University of Wyoming and several other in the consortium put together to be able to study the environment and any other problems using a super high-speed computer. I congratulate the state of Wyoming for being able to attract that facility to Wyoming. It's one of a kind in the nation, and it has room for enlargement and to solve problems. As far as climate change, one of the things I've suggested is that we take the $5 billion a year that we spend on proving that there is climate change and the $5 billion a year that we spend proving there isn't climate change and actually do it to provide something that will make our environment better. I think we denigrate the ingenuity of the American people when we don't think that we can make things better. There's this attack on coal, but yet there isn't anything being done to make coal better.
Senator Enzi, thank you. Mr. Porambo.
I feel that anything we can do to help educate our youth, to push them forward, to continue studies, is a good endeavor. I feel that we have to, in all of these programs, look and show both ends of the spectrum so that they fully have the entire story. But I do feel that education is not the purview of the federal government, but the purview of state and local governments. That is not one of the things that have been drawn out for the federal government to have responsibility over. So anything mandated from the federal government, I think, needs to be looked at, and the state needs to make the decision, not the federal government, on what is taught to the kids of Wyoming.
Thank you very much, Mr. Porambo. Mr. Hardy.
I'm more impressed with what scientists say than what politicians say. And in that connection, I was smiling during this time because on National Public Radio last week, I heard Senator Enzi say that the pollution in the air was caused by forest fires in Canada. And you tried to tell people in Cheyenne, Wyoming, who smell the refinery and who have for year after year after year, that that's coming from forest fires in Canada. We've got to face the facts. There are problems. Climate change is happening, and we've got to address it. Again, we have to work on technology and so on. We do have a wonderful resource here in Wyoming, coal and so on. But at the same time, we cannot say there was a snowstorm in May. Tell people in Wyoming there's, that there's global warming. There's a difference between weather and climate, and I think we have to accept the fact there is climate change.
Thank you very much. A rebuttal.
Yes. Well, like I said, there is a definite need to behave responsibly as a nation. I don't think that in the interim, while we're waiting for definitive answers for global warming, whether it's happening or not happening, there's no excuse for us not to act as responsibly as we can as a world citizen.
Thank you very much. The next question from Ben Starrow, the Casper Star Tribune, for Senator Enzi.
Senator Enzi, the Obama administration has proposed limiting the amount of carbon dioxide emitted from coal-fired power plants. What is your view of the president's plan? Should the United States be taking efforts to reduce CO2 emissions? And if so, is EPA regulation the appropriate way to tackle the issue?
The United States has been doing a lot to reduce the amount of CO2. The private businesses have been doing a lot to reduce the amount of CO2. In fact, we've come close to meeting the climate change agreement that was in the 90s on the reduction of carbon. And that doesn't mean that we have gone as far as we can. There's a lot more that can be done. The EPA is in the process, though, of putting a lot of businesses out of business, raising the cost of electricity, which raises the price of manufacturing and home heating, and will move businesses overseas, which will cost jobs, which will take care of the poor in an adverse way. And it's for little or no gain. When they do the evaluation on what will be achieved by that elimination of CO2, they admit that there's very little that will be gained.
Thank you very much. Mr. Porambo.
I think we need to look at this, but I also feel that increased regulation is hurtful to any industry. You can over-regulate an industry, and I think we've done that with the energy industry. We've driven them to a point where the prices to the consumer are driven up. We need to have less regulation and allow these companies to come along and make better choices. Instead of the choices being made in Washington, D.C. by the EPA, the people that are dealing with it on a daily basis can make those decisions on how to better reduce the carbons.
Thank you very much. Mr. Hardy.
I often stand in front of the Capitol in Cheyenne and I look at the state seal, and it mentions grain, livestock, mining, oil. But underneath that seal, there's water. Above that seal, there's air. And whatever decisions are made in regard to energy, we must never forget here in Wyoming that our most important resources are our air, our water, and the land that we're living on. Again, you think about Native Americans and throughout the whole continent, speaking about Pachamama, Mother Earth, we've got to be concerned about it. And so whatever decisions are made, we must never ever forget that thing, that our air and our water in Wyoming are the most important resources we have. And so that means we have the potentiality of being the greatest energy supplier in the whole nation, but that also deals with our air and with us as human beings. We should not forget human beings need air, need water.
Thank you very much. Mr. Gottshall.
Yes, like I said, we should focus as much as we can on being as responsible as we can be as industries and as people in the global stage as far as CO2 emissions. I don't, however, feel that the EPA is the vehicle to enforce it on a state level. I think that the EPA should possibly be advisory in nature, and if they have problems with states' issues, they should come into the state legislature and the state government and handle things through a chain of command, if you will. We have instances several times in our state where the EPA would come in for a small topic like a stock pond or something like that. That's a gross overstate of jurisdiction, I think, on the EPA's part, and I think that needs to be looked into as well.
Thank you very much. A rebuttal, Senator Enzi.
The EPA has a huge overreach. They're going well beyond any legislation that was passed, any rules that they were asked to write, and they're trying to control the land, the air, and the water without authority. And Wyoming really pays attention to its water. We have fights with the surrounding states all the time. As Mark Twain said, water's for, whiskey's for drinking, water's for fighting over. And we do that and have to do that and have to have the experience in Washington to do it.
Thank you very much. Mr. Porambo, this next question is for you. Did President Obama err when he has repeatedly promised that the United States will not use its own ground combat troops in Iraq and Syria as it battles ISIS? Do you see parallels to President Johnson's early comments about Vietnam when he said in October of 1964, and I quote, that we are not about to send American boys 9,000 or 10,000 miles away from home to do what Asian boys ought to be doing for themselves?
I do not disagree with the fact that we should not be sending ground troops into any other country to fight their civil wars. That those should be fought by the people that reside there. That our men and women who valiantly serve their country should be brought home. Realize this cannot be done overnight, otherwise you will destabilize regions of the country, of the world. But that we need to bring them home and let these other countries battle their own civil wars, and let our valiant men and women protect their country that they live in and protect their borders.
Thank you very much. Mr. Hardy.
I cannot second guess President Obama. He has information that I do not have. But on the other hand, I think we should look back. How did we get involved in these conflicts? And that's where my father always said, if the politicians want to go to war, they should be the first ones to go. And that doesn't happen. And so when we look back at the Senate, when we look back at the people in Congress, why did they let us go into Iraq? Why have we become involved in all these entanglements, these conflicts around the world? So basically that's it. I cannot judge, because I don't have the information, what's happening now. But I can look back at what has happened. And we do not have the right to go around the world telling people your president or your leader has to go, and then we send young men and young women into situations, put their lives in danger, and then when they come back, we don't provide enough funds for them through the Veterans Administration and so on. So that's where I'm focusing at this moment, because I could not give really a good answer, yes or no, as to what President Obama is doing. But I can look back and see the failure of responsibility on the part of our Senate, and that includes Senator Enzi.
Thank you very much. Mr. Gottshall.
Yes, well, I find it hard to believe that a president of all people would tip his hat. I mean, if we're not going to send ground troops in there, telling the enemy that we're not going to send ground troops in there, it mesmerizes me. I can't figure out why anyone would tell their strategy to their enemy. That's leadership at its worst, in my opinion. But on a different token, I do agree that we either need to get in or get out. The only reason that we're there right now is because we've been there for the last 18 years, and we've taken off taken out the leaders of the region and left them in a power vacuum. And anytime there's a power vacuum, someone will raise the occasion. And in this particular instance, it's ISIS. They're there because we have allowed them to be there, because we crippled the regime that was in there before and left them to defend themselves. And they're not doing so. So we either need to get in and go the whole way through to the finish, or get out. But we can't do so quickly. We have to do it in a manner to stabilize the region.
Thank you very much. Senator Enzi.
We have a president who likes to make speeches but doesn't like to make decisions. In his speeches, he gives away too much of the strategy of the United States too early and lets our enemies know what's going to happen, and then lacks decisiveness. He's had a number of things that have been proposed that he could have done in a timely manner in small stages that probably would have worked to eliminate ISIS. He ignored all of those until it was a major crisis. Now he wants to do those same small steps to handle a much bigger problem that's grown out of control, and he's not going to kill him by saying that he can speak well.
Thank you very much. A rebuttal, Mr. Porambo.
I think we need to stop being the police of the world and bring, in a reasonable manner, our young men and women back to their families.
Okay, thank you very much. Now we're at the point in the debate that we think will be fun. We call it the lightning round. We'll throw short phrase topics at you, such as EPA, and you'll respond with a short, spontaneous answer. After that, we'll be back to our longer form questions. Lee Patterson from Wyoming, or from Inside Energy, will have the first lightning round topic for Mr. Hardy.
School shootings.
I do not think that teachers should carry guns into schools. I believe people have a right to own guns, hunters, people need them for their protection. I just do not believe that teachers should carry guns into schools.
Thank you very much. Mr. Gottshall.
Firearm safety and responsibility of the parents. There's no reason for any adolescent to have access to a firearm unless it's with his parents on a hunting expedition. Taking them to school, it shows the lack of household management on their family's part.
Senator Enzi.
I think we failed a couple of generations by not making the message clear enough that it's wrong to kill people. It's even wrong to kill yourself. So we have a lot of suicides, we have the school shootings, and We're just not delivering a message to the kids of hope that they need. We need to let them know that there isn't anything that's bad enough that it can't be undone, so that they don't have to kill themselves. And then they don't get into those situations where they think they've got to take a lot of other people with them.
Thank you, Senator. Mr. Porambo.
I've got to agree with what Mr. Gottshall said. It is a personal responsibility. It is the responsibility of the parents to raise their children in such a way that they will not bring a gun to school and kill their classmates, their teachers, that they will handle it in a responsible way.
Thank you very much. The next lightning round topic from Ben Starrow for Mr. Gottshall.
Vladimir Putin.
Pretty tough ruler, and you know, we have lacked the respect or the ability to deal with him. And Senator Enzi he's recently voted on blocking the appointment of critical ambassadors during times of our global turmoil, and I'm kind of curious as to why that would happen.
Thank you very much, Senator Enzi.
Vladimir Putin remembers that the president said that if he got reelected, he'd have a lot more flexibility. Vladimir Putin is testing that flexibility. As far as ambassadors, they did get appointed. They did get through. They got slightly delayed because of some end of the session political gerrymandering.
Thank you very much, Mr. Porambo.
I think he is a formidable leader. He has made some what I think are very derogatory moves towards the United States. I think they need to be addressed. I think he needs to be dealt with on a very stern basis and not a weak, willy-nilly. When we say something, we mean it.
Thank you very much. Mr. Hardy.
I think we have provoked problems with him. Both Ron Paul, who would be very much to the right, Dennis Kucinich, very much to the left, said we provoked the problem in Ukraine. I think it's a good example of our failed foreign policy, this role that Putin has today in the world. We have caused his power in many ways.
Thank you very much. Senator Enzi, plastic shopping bags.
I hope that people are aware of their environment and do everything they can to recycle and to use the other kinds of shopping bags that can prevent all of that plastic from getting into the world. And that's a personal responsibility that all of us have to recycle and improve our environment.
Mr. Porambo.
Okay. I would have to agree with Senator Enzi on this. It's a personal responsibility thing. If I get a plastic bag in the grocery store, I make sure I reuse it for something else. Use it to put my trash in, because we use the plastic bags to put our trash in to go to the landfill, the trash bags. We do the same with what we get from the grocery store. But I think we need to be responsible.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Porambo. Mr. Hardy.
I've spent a good part of my lifetime outside the country also, and I was in one Latin American country where the plastic bags disintegrate in 18 months. So people carry their groceries home, and in 18 months, that bag is gone. And I wonder, why can't we learn from what's happening around the world? And I think that's an experience that I'd like to bring to the Senate.
Thank you, Mr. Gottshall.
Yes, I think that I also use them to take my trash out as well. But however, I've traveled to different places around the world where they actually charge a fraction of a cent for these shopping bags. And you would be surprised at the frugality of people. If you make them pay 3 cents for the bag, they'll start carrying a paper bag.
Thank you very much. The next lightning round topic from Leigh Patterson for Mr. Porambo.
Immigration.
Immigration. I think our immigration system has failed. I think we need to look at it where we are at a point where people who have migrated here legally have done everything they can, but yet cannot afford to become a citizen. They're a legal resident, but cannot afford the cost of becoming a legal citizen. Yet we're talking about taking illegal immigrants, giving them amnesty, and making them United States citizens. I think it's wrong, and I think we need to look at our immigration system
and figure out how we can Thank you very much. Mr. Hardy?
Our current laws are not only unjust, they are cruel. We are tearing families apart in our country, good people who want to be good citizens and become part of our country. We need a comprehensive immigration law. And our people in the Senate, in the House, I do not think they're meeting their responsibility in this regard.
Mr. Gottshall?
I think there's room for improvement on the immigration laws, but in the meantime, we do have laws on the books, and we should be enforcing the laws we have instead of granting amnesty to people who have broken the law. I think that until things change, we enforce what we have.
Thank you very much. Senator Enzi.
The president, when he was in the Senate, defeated the immigration bill because he didn't want any people coming in as a guest worker into the country. Now he's willing to sign an order to make those people citizens, but he moved that to after the election because he realized it would cost him the Senate if he did that.
Thank you, Senator Enzi. The last lightning round topic for Mr. Hardy from Ben STORROW.
College affordability.
I think college is a right. Our middle class was built on the GI Bill because people were able to get to study. My brother studied at Georgia Tech because of the GI Bill. We have to find a way to make college not only affordable but free. That's what the Wyoming Constitution says. It should be as free as possible.
Thank you very much. Mr. Gottshall?
Well, however, I don't think it should be free. I do think it should be affordable, and I think student loans should also be very affordable. There's been many acts to come through the Congress that have been voted down to limit the amount of interest that you can charge students on student loans, and I think it should be minimal.
Thank you. Senator Enzi.
I hope that the students of Wyoming are looking at a little financial literacy as they pick their colleges and know that there are places that they can go that are less expensive that they may be able to afford. And there is a Hathaway scholarship that Wyoming provides. If they go to school, it can be for college or for technical school, and we should not denigrate the technical schools.
Mr. Porambo.
I think college ought to be affordable. I think higher education is important to the betterment of our country. And I think it needs to be affordable. Loans need to be there in order to allow the middle income family to send their child to school.
Thank you very much. Candidates, we'll resume our longer form questions now. This question is for you, Mr. Porambo, from Lee Patterson of Inside Energy.
Mr. Porambo, Wyoming will soon have its first Job Corps Center, opening soon just down the road here in Riverton. It will focus on a variety of energy-related jobs, but with a specific emphasis on oil and gas. With its mission of helping Wyoming meet its workforce demands, does the success of the project indicate an economic shift from coal to natural gas?
The success of the program, I think, would signify a shift in that direction, but not a total shift. I think we need to, as has been said here earlier tonight, we need to look at all sources of energy and keep a balance between them. And I think that this will help achieve that because we have lacked the education in those areas and have concentrated strictly on the coal and the oil rather than natural gas. If we bring all three in, we get that balance. And we not only better benefit the students, but we better benefit the people of Wyoming.
Thank you very much. Mr. Hardy.
I still live in the old house where I was born in Cheyenne, Wyoming. We have 3 coal-burning stoves, we have some gas heaters, we have some electric heaters, and out in front we have a solar light that shines on the flag at night. It's the same thing that Mr. Porambo is talking about. We have to look at all sources of energy. I would hope that they will open some more institutes to deal with wind energy, with sun energy, and also more to help them in the coal area.
Mr. Gottshall.
Well, I think that educating the workforce is a big part of our responsibility as a state and as a nation. And right now, the Interstate Commerce Act is crippling our coal industry through not allowing us to export it. And the natural gas is booming. So there is more demand for people in the natural gas industry. So as that paradigm shift takes place, we're going to need to educate the workforce to move in that direction. And hopefully we'll have some ability to to let the people go back to work if we are able to sort out the problems that we have not allowing us to export our coal. And that way we can continue to provide for the country with and the world with the well-rounded sources of energy that we have here in Wyoming.
Thank you very much. Senator Enzi.
I'm glad that you mentioned the Job Corps Center. Wyoming was one of 2 states that didn't have a Job Corps Center. I asked the question why. They said that there wasn't the money. I helped to find the money so that this Job Corps Center could be built here. And the purpose of the Job Corps Center is to provide training for jobs that are available in the area. And the reason this area got selected for that Job Corps Center was because of the high unemployment on the reservation and in some of the surrounding states, but primarily for the reservation. So that's one of the solutions for helping on the reservation to make sure that we bring people up that are in unemployment situations and also low-income situations. I've also been touring the state, doing a Wyoming Works thing, looking at different businesses and what their needs are. There are tremendous needs for people out there that have some kind of skill. And there are community colleges and tech schools that are providing those, but not at the numbers that are needed for it. We have got to find a way to get the kids that want those kind of jobs, the skills to do those jobs and into those jobs.
Thank you. A rebuttal, Mr. Porambo?
I agree that we do need to find a way to educate the youth, even the adults, in new trades. But we need to look at all sources of energy, not just 1 or 2, because with just one, we're not going to meet all our needs. So we need to be versatile.
Thank you very much. Next question from Ben Starrow, the Casper Star Tribune, for Mr. Hardy.
Mr. Hardy, the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act allowed over $600 million to flow to Wyoming, and billions was earmarked nationally. The likelihood of lawmakers potentially having family members directly profit from those dollars seems high. In such cases, when should an elected official declare a conflict of interest?
Conflict of interest. First of all, I've got to say something. Senator Enzi was proud that we got a Job Corps Center in Wyoming, but he said we were one of 2 states that didn't have any. I think that shows a failing on his part as a senator. Why were we one of the 2 last states in the whole United States to get a Job Corps Center? Going back to the matter of conflict of interest, one of the things, we have not taken any money from PACs, we've not taken any money from corporations for our campaign, because we believe money is playing too important a part in this whole thing. Yes, it's true that a senator or representative cannot use campaign money for themselves, but there is the possibility of using that for family members, for example, when they raise funds for their campaign. And that has happened in the situation of Senator Enzi. He has not benefited. What we have is, in my opinion, we have legalized bribery, we have legalized corruption going on in Washington, and I think it's time to stop that.
Mr. Hardy, thank you. Mr. Gottshall. Yes,
we've turned into a crony capitalistic society, and what I mean by that is that if I'm a politician and I receive $500,000 from a corporate campaign contribution, there's got to be some strings involved with that. It can't just be accessibility. There's more to it than that. And in addition, there's many businesses that practice nepotism, meaning that if your dad works at a plant, you can't work there. And you can have no affiliation with subcontractors that work for that company. And I think that it's time that we put something in place like that on our federal books, meaning that if you're in the U.S. Senate and whether you vote for or against something and federal funds are allocated to a company and your family members work for that company, there's a conflict of interest there, and nepotism laws should be applied.
Thank you very much. Senator Enzi.
I voted against the stimulus, and I voted against any of the uses of that stimulus. I said that it wouldn't do any good. It didn't do any good. It cost the country a fortune. When I ran for office the very first time, I was accused of having a conflict of interest in the Wyoming legislature. They said that I got a reduction in coal tariffs for a coal mine, and you know, I did. But I don't have any advantage from the coal mines. And what I did was get a reduction down in Kemmerer so that they could compete with their deeper mine with the coal companies in my own area. So there are right things to do, and you have to do what's right, do your best, and treat others as they want to be treated.
Thank you very much. Mr. Porambo.
I think as a senator, it is the responsibility of yourself to, if a bill comes forward that a family member will benefit from financially, it is your obligation to accuse yourself from that vote, to walk away from that vote in order to not give any appearance of wrongdoing. Because the voters look at the appearance of wrongdoing. And there is a conflict of interest if a family member is going to benefit.
Thank you very much. A rebuttal, Mr. Hardy.
The fact that Senator Enzi's daughter-in-law received money for raising funds for his campaign, there is nothing illegal. But I think we have to ask, is it ethical? Should family members be receiving funds from that?
Thank you very much. Our next question from Mr. Gottshall from Lee Patterson.
Mr. Gottshall, University of Wyoming recently received $4.25 million from the Department of Energy for wind research. And there are a handful of massive wind farm and transmission line proposals in the works that would send Wyoming wind to the west. How would you make sure these profits benefit Wyoming's economy?
Well, first of all, we come back to the cost effectiveness of this wind energy farm, and is it the right thing to do? And we've already done it, so we hope that it is. But like I said before, that the cost of generating wind power at this particular moment in time is astronomically higher than any other source of energy that we have on Earth. And I don't think that that's the proper allocation of the funds. And the only way we can ensure that some of the money comes back to us is to make sure that we get our portion from the transmission. Right now we have wind farms from many other states that reside in our state that are part of their green grid from our surrounding states. And we need to make sure that the transmission of that energy benefits the people of Wyoming.
Senator Enzi.
We need every kind of energy. Each kind of energy, though, needs to stand on its own. Right now, they talk about a federal emphasis on the renewable energies, but if you follow it, it isn't really happening. When I was down in southwest Wyoming, I found out that none of the wind turbines are put on federal land. They're all on private land. They can't even build a transmission line across the federal land, which means that checkerboard pattern down there, they're having to bend the line, turn at every 1 mile corner down there, which is a huge expense. So we're not putting our money where our mouth is, or our emphasis on the kind of energy or the costs of the energy. Now, one of the energy projects that's going to be built with wind here was asked if they needed that subsidy, and they said no, they were going to build it anyway. And that's how the energy business ought to work.
Thank you. Mr. Porambo.
I think we need to look at all forms of energy. I don't think we can just concentrate on one, wind energy. And we need to make sure that, A, they are cost effective, and that the flow back to the point of transmission of the money comes back to the flow of where the flow of transmission begins. And I think by that, yes, it does generate money for the state of Wyoming, but I don't think we can limit ourselves to one source of power. I think we have to look at all of our sources and use them equally.
Thank you very much. Mr. Hardy.
Senator Enzi has mentioned just now that each source of energy needs to stand on its own. I don't agree with that. And I especially am concerned when, for example, funds coming in for campaigns are principally from one energy source rather than another. I do not plan to take any money from any lobbyist, from any of the energy sources, and rather rely on the information that is given to me by all the sources. I'm just afraid too much money is tied to the decisions that are made with regard to this energy source or another energy source.
Thank you very much. Mr. Gottshall, rebuttal?
Yes, well, I also agree that the source of corruption in politics always stems back to the money. But on this particular instance, we're talking about energy. And energy does need to stand on its own to the point where we can't subsidize clean energy to the tune of billions and billions of dollars when we're already racking up a tremendous national debt. We need to try to foster cleaner energy, but at the same time, we have to be fiscally responsible when we do it.
Thank you. Candidates, we have time for one final question from Ben STORROW from the Casper Star Tribune. For you first, Senator Enzi.
Senator, Congress has been plagued by gridlock in recent years. Please name 2 examples of an issue where you would reach across the aisle to work with the member of the other party, and who you would work with.
I could give you 100 examples of ways that I've done that. The worst vote that I've had on my 100 bills has been 85 to 15. That's way across the aisle. In fact, they talk about gridlock. In the last 2 months, I've passed 2 bills. One of them was a jobs bill. We keep talking about jobs in the economy. I'm embarrassed that it took me 10 years to get that done. But that's the way that it works when you have to get one vote at a time to get them through. And that one will provide training for 500,000 people a year to get higher skills that are available in their area. And I'm pleased with that bill. It passed 95 to 3. The other bill that I did was for more autism research, and that passed 100 to nothing. That's pretty bipartisan. I like working with my colleagues. I've gotten to know my colleagues. They trust me. They know my principles, and they know I'm not going to violate them.
Thank you, Senator. Mr. Porambo.
I think the premise of the question is what's wrong with politics today. You said reach across the aisle. It's not Republican and Democrat. There are independents involved. There are libertarians. We all need to work together. Can I work with Senator Enzi? Can I work with Curt Gottshall? Can I work? Yes, I am willing to work with anybody. But to say to reach across the aisle refers to Republican and Democrat. We're not Republican and Democrat. We are citizens of the United States of America. We are asking to represent those citizens of the United States of America. And we need to work with each other, no matter what party we belong to, on any issue.
Thank you, Mr. Porambo. Mr. Hardy.
The other night in Woods Landing, Wyoming, I was introduced as the Democratic-Republican candidate for the United States Senate. I like that. I mean, my whole life I've had friends on both sides, and we work together. Senator Enzi prides himself on working across the aisle. For example, working with Senator Ted Kennedy. But I really believe he hasn't realized that Ted Kennedy died about 5 years ago. He did work a lot across the aisle. But now being known as the second most conservative senator in Congress, that I do not see as a value. I would prefer that he would be a moderate senator and that would indicate willing to work back and forth. Take some easy issues, sure, autism, pardon me, so on. Yes, you can get a 100% vote, but let's look at some of the crucial issues and see how he has worked together with others across the aisle.
Mr. Hardy, thank you. Mr. Gottshall.
Yes, well, I have to call into question the ability to work across the aisle. It stems me right back to this blocking vote for the critical ambassadors. When we had the turmoil with the Russians and the Ukrainians, we're just ready to break the Senate for the senators to go home and campaign in their home states. The last event on the books is to approve 25 senators, or 25 ambassadors around the world to help us open dialogue with critical countries like Russia. And the only reason that Senator Enzi blocked that vote was to hold his party line tight. He was mad at Senator Reid for past partisan issues, and he put the sake of his party above the interests of his people. And that's not something that I'm set out to do. As an independent, I'll be able to legislate based on merit and right and wrong, not party affiliation, and everything will be in the best interest of the people. And the other people, the other senators in office, will have to vote on that merit, and their voting records will be held accountable for their future challengers.
Thank you very much. Senator, a rebuttal?
Thank you for recognizing that I'm the second most conservative senator in the United States Senate. You forgot the other important statistic, which is that I have more bipartisan bills than any other senator. I do that with my 80% rule. I found that we can talk civilly about 80% of the issues. And if we stick to that 80%, we can find a few that we can actually solve, probably 80%. That's the common ground. That's what I find. That's what I work on.
Thank you, Senator. We're nearing the end of our debates. Candidates, we're truly thankful for your participation, and now it's time for you to have the last word. In a predetermined order, we now offer the candidates an opportunity for a closing statement. The order drawn by lot earlier will go Mr. Hardy, Mr. Porambo, Mr. Gottshall, and then Senator Enzi. Mr. Hardy, your closing statement.
When I told a friend that I was going to run for the United States Senate, he said, "How are you going to raise $1 million?" And he said, in politics, money talks. I have never listened to money in my whole life, and I don't plan to in the future. I have tried to listen to people, and I think there are some questions that the Wyoming voters should ask Senator Enzi, because he is the senator in there who is today. Why has 99% of the money in his PACs come from outside the state of Wyoming? Why has 75% of the money spent on the campaign been spent outside of Wyoming? Why is he the senator who has the highest amount of money per capita for this campaign? Why are there children going to bed hungry in Wyoming today? Why are there women who are not earning equal wage? Why did he vote against Violence Against Women Act when half the Republican senators voted for it? Why did he vote against equal pay for equal work? Why did he vote against raising the minimum wage when he earns $174,000 a year? I have devoted my life to listening to people, and that's what I plan to do, and I think that's the best way I can serve the people of Wyoming. That seat is not the seat of Mike Enzi. It belongs to the people of Wyoming. It belongs to us. And I think we have to show the world that it's not money. $3 million to win an election against the three of us is rather ridiculous in my point of view. And I beg the people of Wyoming, let's show the whole nation that it is not money which decides votes in Wyoming.
Mr. Hardy, thank you. Mr. Porambo's next.
First off, I would like to thank the panel for the questions tonight. I thank the American people for the opportunity to run for U.S. Senate and to try to make a difference. I myself, just like it's been stated earlier, I am not taking any PAC money, any business money. I have funded this campaign out of my own pocket, out of what I make as a cook. I want to represent the people of Wyoming to bring us back to a common-sensual government where we look at things on a basis of what we look at our own households. You know, if we shop at one grocery store all of our life and grocery store builds across the street that can offer us same product at a cheaper price, we're going to go to that. We need to do that in Washington. If we've got one defense contractor that has given us something for 30 years, but yet we've got an upstart that comes along, give us the same product for half the price, why aren't we buying it from them instead of buying it from the person that we've done for 20 years? Yes, there's loyalty, but we've got to be physically responsible. And I'm not seeing that in Washington today.
Mr. Porambo, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Gottshall.
Well, like Charlie and Joseph has said, I'm also not taking any corporate campaign contributions. I find them to be immoral and unethical. I think that, like most of our nation, I've become fed up with our federal government. With our current senator in office, the national debt has gone from $5.2 trillion to $17.7 trillion, and he's received millions in corporate impact contributions. Politicians shouldn't be bought and paid for by big business. They should represent the interests of the people, not the business. And that being said, if we expect something different out of a fourth term, it would simply be insane. I mean, we can't keep doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. The system that we have in Washington now with the Republicans versus the Democrats blaming each other and nobody doing anything, it's not acceptable. And it's time we hold these leaders accountable and relieve them of duty. I'd like to be able to get into office as an independent and legislate based on right and wrong. And I stand for removing corruption from politics by legislating campaign finance reform laws, legislating term limits, ending the NSA's domestic spying and data collection, defending our Second Amendment rights, repairing our much-needed Social Security system, and sponsoring legislation to provide us public access to public lands. Please visit my website to learn more. It's time that we return to a government of the people, by the people, and for the people. We got ourselves into this mess by electing those currently in office. Let's unite and make a change. Choose to be heard by electing me as Wyoming's next U.S. Senator.
Thank you, Mr. Gottshall. Senator Enzi.
First of all, I'd like to thank Wyoming Public Broadcasting for broadcasting the debates and doing the debates in so many different areas. I also want to thank my fellow candidates for running. I know what it's like to put your name on a ballot. I now know what it's like to get a lot of criticism without rebuttal. When you only get 1 minute to explain something and maybe 20 minutes of rebuttal, but you don't get that on everyone when you're the sole source of the shotgun, it's a little bit difficult. But my dad always said, if you want to know what somebody will do, look at what they've done. I've done it. I've done it in a bipartisan way. I've done it in a big way. I've set some records. And yes, you can criticize some of my votes. I've had over 5,000 votes. And I would say that even my wife wouldn't agree with all 5,000 of those votes. But I can explain every one of those votes, and every one of those votes has to be made at the time, not with hindsight. And that's what everybody else gets an advantage from. Like I say, I can explain every one of them. What I do is the motto that I have with every one of my staff, which is, do what's right, do your best, and treat others as they want to be treated. And I work at that. I work at getting jobs and the economy and energy and simplifying taxes and balancing the budget. And I'm making progress in all of those areas, and I have a proven track record in them. It's a critical time for America, and I ask for your vote.
Thank you, Senator Enzi. I believe I speak for the whole panel. We've appreciated tonight's debate. That's it for this evening's second debate. I want to thank the 4 candidates for this lively debate and offer my special thanks to Leigh Patterson from Inside Energy and from Ben Starrow from the Casper Star Tribune. Also thanks to our Wyoming PBS crew who are working hard behind the scenes, keeping the cameras, lights, and microphones working. To our viewers, we offer a special thank you again and remind you please to exercise your right to vote in the November 4th general election. You can watch this debate again and all of the Wyoming PBS debates online at wyomingpbs.org/debates. Also, thanks to our debate partners, Wyoming Public Media, the Wyoming Business Report, and K2 Television. Wyoming PBS will host more debates this week. On Wednesday, we invite you to watch the candidates for Wyoming Secretary of State. That debate starts at 7 p.m. On Thursday, we look forward to hosting the candidates for Wyoming Governor at 7 p.m., followed by the candidates for Superintendent of Public Instruction at 8 p.m. From all of us at Wyoming PBS, thanks again. And we'll see you again Wednesday night at 7 o'clock.
This program is supported in part by the National Federation of Independent Business, the nation's oldest and largest advocacy organization devoted to small and independent business, the NFIB. Proud to support the 2014 general election debates on Wyoming PBS.
General election debates on Wyoming PBS are supported in part by a grant from the BNSF Railway Foundation, dedicated to improving the general welfare and quality of life in communities throughout the BNSF Railway.